She's still in the spotlight. This is how the former First Lady of the Philippines, Imelda Marcos, celebrates after securing a congressional seat in the recent election. And she wasn't the only Marcos to win. Her son was voted in as a senator, and her daughter becomes the new governor of their home province of Ilocos Norte. Their victories come 24 years after Imelda's husband, President Ferdinand Marcos, was ousted from power. His 20-year rule ended by a people power revolution following the assassination of opposition Senator Benigno Aquino. Now Aquino's son and namesake will be sworn in as the country's next leader. This week on Talk Asia, we catch up with Imelda Marcos to discuss her political plans and find out what she thinks about another Aquino taking office. Mrs. Marcos, thank you for joining us. You have had quite a history, from being the former First Lady, ousted in a coup, living in exile, back, and you've just been elected to Congress. What goes through your mind at a time like this?
Yes, I have quite a life. I must say that the Lord has given me a life of a big life of the best, and the worst. And name it, I got it. And then here we had quite an election. While it is true that they say that this percentage of a vote for the Marcoses has never been like this before. This is unprecedented.
What is your first plan of action when you take office?
My first plan of action is really after seeing the countryside, because this time I just did not go to the towns and the centers and the cities, but I went to the rural areas and went to each and every extended family called the barangay in our culture. And I saw the problems and at the same time the potential of the place. I can feel that we can still make human settlements in the villages, in the barangays, in paradise.
Benigno Aquino is set to be the next president. He is the son of a woman who is considered to be your archenemy, Corazon Aquino. How do you feel about your archenemy's son taking up the mantle of the presidency?
I pray that he succeeds. For the sake of the Filipino people, I really pray that he succeeds, because you need somebody in the office of the president with a lot of public experience in service, and also I even more hope and pray that he succeeds in eradicating corruption, because if that is so, then the truth and the Marcos truth will prevail. Because just as an example, the 20 years of Ferdinand Marcos had a budget of 486 billion plus, a little plus that. And in 20 years, and in the case of Corazon Aquino, it was something like 1,077 billion, double that of Marcos. So even with that just plain arithmetic, I think some kind of a truth will prevail. And little by little, as things unfold and other details of the Marcos years can unfold too.
Ferdinand E. Marcos. We see now the nation we aspire to be, which is rising slowly in our land.
It's my fate to die by an assassin's bullet, so be it. But I cannot be petrified by inaction or fear.
There are those that do look at Ferdinand Marcos and they do call him a dictator, and they look at him as the man who imposed martial law, who ruled the Philippines with an iron fist, or had this very, very controversial past. You obviously seem to have a completely different perspective of the very same person.
When Ferdinand Marcos became president, we really did not have, we were not, even our sovereignty of our country was not ensured. There was no freedom, justice, democracy, even human rights. Why? Because we had a 99 years basis agreement with the United States, and 30 years of possession is ownership, just like Guantanamo. So what the first thing Marcos did the first few months was bring down the basis agreement to 25, then 5 years after, with a rental of a few hundred million to ensure our sovereignty, because our sovereignty was in question. And in terms of Cuba, it has one base, Guantanamo. In the Philippines, there were 23. A good part of our country would have been lost if Marcos did not take care of that. Freedom, we had, at the height of the Cold War, when China, Russia, and America was fighting in Vietnam, we could not afford to fight China and everybody. We just had to befriend, because just for survival.
But if Ferdinand Marcos and yourself were doing such a good job of governance, if you were implementing all of these principles, if everything was just a pure derivative of necessity, why were you driven out of the country?
We were not driven out of the country. We were taken out of the country. We thought we were going to Ilocos Norte. In Pawai, Ilocos Norte. We ended up in Hawaii. In fact, from the palace, we were taken by two big helicopters. One helicopter that took me and Bongbong and staff, and the other helicopter with Ferdinand and the girls and staff. We were about 92, only to be brought to Clark Air Base. And then from Clark Air Base, they said they would bring us to Ilocos Norte. And 2-3 hours after, I asked General Allen, who was our escort, who was the head of JUSMAG, General Allen, it's already 2 hours. So I was here only flying from Manila to Ilocos, and it was only 50 minutes. Why now 2 hours already? Oh no, we cannot land in Ilocos Norte because the communists are waiting there. We'll be attacked by the communists. In a few hours we are landing, in a few minutes we are landing in Guam. So we landed in a military base in Guam. Then we were given parole visa, and then a day or two after, I think, we were brought in a C-130 to go to Hawaii, in Makiki Air Base. Why Makiki Air Base, a military base, and we were there for months.
The movement that led to this was sparked by the assassination of Benigno Aquino Sr., of which the Aquino family believes you are responsible for.
That's not fair, because 2 months before, every time I went to the United States and Ninoy would know that I was in town, he would always come see me at the Waldorf Towers. And even 2 months before, or 1 month before his assassination, we had agreed he would come back home, and that we will put him just in house arrest, but you tell us and inform us that he is that you are coming home. Just let us know and inform us. The Lord knows I was kind to him, very kind to him and generous to him. This is Fidel Castro, and he was bringing us around because I was looking at one of his projects for the youth and was very interested thereat. And he was kidding me. He was telling me, I only drove for 2 women in my life, my mother and you, Imelda Marcos. He was kidding me. Here is Gaddafi, who was then head of the 29 Muslim countries of the Islamic Conference, I was able to lead a delegation somewhere in the 70s, mid-70s, where finally we got the Tripoli Agreement. Saddam Hussein, when I was invited, after the signing of the Tripoli Agreement, Saddam Hussein invited me to become the guest for the International World Fair, and together also invited that I asked to have 10,000 Filipino labor to start the laborers going to the Middle East.
What year was this?
This most probably is in 75. In 75.
You know, a lot of these individuals are very controversial historic figures that you've met with. I mean, when you reflect back on, the decades of history and everything that surrounds them, everything that surrounds your family? What goes through your mind?
Well, precisely, it was at the height of the Cold War, and geographically we were center of all of this, and it is true we love freedom, justice, and democracy. We were on the right with the United States and everything, but we are only 50 minutes away by plane in mainland China, so we had to befriend everybody, respect everybody. They may be different, but vive la différence.
You speak about how you and your husband, you built hospitals, you tried to improve the quality of life of people, and yet you are perhaps better known for your shoe collection and your extravagant, over-the-top, what appeared to be irresponsible spending. That's what people associate with your name. How does that make you feel?
It is never irresponsible spending when it is beauty. There's no extravagant in beauty. There's nobody is extravagantly beautiful, overly beautiful or overly expensive when it is beautiful. And in fact, my late husband would always tell me, I can earn money properly, he said, but you be the one to spend it because you know how to spend money properly. And then when I asked him why, because you buy beauty.
How did you meet Ferdinand Marcos?
Well, I met my husband because I was passing with the wife of the Speaker of the House, and Marcos was the minority floor leader of the House. He was there brilliantly, of course, attacking the party in power, of which my family, the Muslims family, was part of that party in power during the time of Magsaysay. But when, after all the sessions were going on very almost in real controversy because they were fighting the budget of Magsaysay then, we were asked to, and we were invited to go to the canteen. By then, Marcos also went to a recess and went to the canteen and saw me. In 20 minutes, he proposed marriage.
20 minutes?
20 minutes after.
And did you say yes right away?
I thought it was crazy, but he said it was love at first sight. I said, that can't be true. I said, nobody can love and want to marry in 20 minutes. Then he paused, and then he said, he started to think, and then he said, I was just a little boy. I was making a sketch of my dream girl, and I had the eyes, the nose, and all of that. Suddenly I had a sketch of my dream girl, and all the ladies and girls that went through my life did not seem to match. And suddenly you came alone and matched perfectly. So, and then he said, no, it's not love at first sight. I loved you all along. So I was kind of impressed.
Do you get lonely now?
Oh, I get lonely, yes and no. And so it's good that once in a while I have a chance to look at him, that he was real once upon a time. But Marcos is more with me now. Before, when he was president and alive, and I would go out of the house or make decisions without even asking his permission or what he thought. But today he's more with me in spirit than ever before. Only physically, once in a while, I just want to say, because it's becoming such a dream that, was he ever real? Was he real? Then I go in the mausoleum to see, oh, he's real.
When you go to see him, do you try to speak to him? Do you just share a moment? And then what is your plan at the end of the day? Are you going to keep him in a mausoleum? Are you trying to get him buried here?
Oh, when I see him and he's real, then I know I'm real too, because I'm living because of his love, and I am energized. I am my attitude is so positive that I've been so privileged to have a man by. I was at the side of a man touched by God. For 35 years, I was married to him, and every time I see him, the more I know that God can be real, and love can be real, and God is love made real.
What made you decide to give your husband something like this as a birthday present?
It was always a symbol of love. And when you give love, you give the good, the true, and the beautiful, making God real.
But I guess my question is, why a hotel? Why a resort?
It needed a hotel. His beautiful province needed a hotel. And I was lucky to have seen the Mamunya Hotel in Marrakesh,
In Morocco, yeah.
Morocco, and I saw some of the paintings of Churchill, who had the gardens of Marrakesh painted, and I felt so in love with it because this bricks, like for instance, was also being produced here in Ilocos, so it was very. This was very. Something that we could do here cheaply, and here is that you will see in some of the paintings of Churchill, and I fell in love with the Mamunya Hotel, and I even told King Hassan then that I said, Your Majesty, I'll copy this. Do you think it will be okay? He said, Sure, we will be complimented. He said, and so this was an exact copy.
Buying all of these beautiful but incredibly expensive things, did you not stop and think to yourself, maybe I can spend this money helping somebody else?
He did that. What do you think this country was started for? He did that. He did not only, he did that first. All we had is, he did that because when Marcos became president, we had no rice to eat from. We had no hotels. We had no. 6% of the Philippines had power. We had no rice. We had no water, food, shelter, clothing, medical service, education, ecological balance. Only less than 0.5% of our people had literacy. We did that simultaneously. That's why, and he anchored this country on practically his asset.
So basically, you justify the extravagant spending because you spend just as much.
There is no extravagance when there is beauty, because that is God made real.
There is the perception amongst many that you and your husband were corrupt, that you stole from the government. You were in fact listed as being amongst the most corrupt leaders in the world. What do you have to say to all of that?
First of all, there was nothing to steal from government. You must remember that the Philippine government was completely bankrupt. In fact, I remember one of my first trips with the first American ambassador we had, and Bill Blair, and then we went to the Federal Reserve, and this was to sell gold because Marcos gold, because the coffers of government was empty. It was not even 500 million pesos.
And how did Marcos end up acquiring such vast wealth?
Because in 1939, when he became a legendary lawyer, the major corporations was asking him to be their counsel and lawyer, and he picked up to be lawyer of the mines, and that's where he worked out, and so much, and because he believed in gold. He always believed in gold, and in fact it was funny because when he gave me a beautiful diamond ring for an engagement ring, and I saw so much gold around his homes and everything, I said, why don't you give me a diamond instead? He said, diamond no good, because you put on fire, it's carbon, but gold is like virtue. The more you put on fire, the purer it is, the more beautiful and the more expensive it is.
And where is all of the gold right now?
According to the documents, now I have all the documents that is stamped by the U.S. government courts and then government and then stamped by the FBI, and it shows there was quite a lot of gold in different major banks of the world.
Do you have any idea how much it's worth?
I don't know.
So you potentially, though, have billions of dollars in gold in banks around the world that you have no access to.
I can now only say that's what the records and the documents that was produced by the United States used against me.
Coming to the United States, the Marcoses allegedly committed crimes here, continuing to engage in millions and millions.
Marcos and Mrs. Marcos are obviously deeply disappointed at President Reagan's failure to prevent this treatment of a long-standing ally of the United States.
How many court cases did you face when you came back to the Philippines, and how many are left?
After the trial of the century in New York, when I came back, Cory filed 901 cases against me. Thanks God, after all these years since 1991, when I was able to force my way back to the Philippines, November 4, the 901 cases, one is left, and it is at rest. And I am sure, because there is so many precedent before this particular case, I will come out of it winning the case, and I will be out of all of this persecution.
And when all of these cases come to an end, will you then be able to recuperate your assets, your gold, your billions of dollars?
More important than me getting the asset is my getting the truth to prevail. And then the next important thing that I perhaps will be able to help the Filipino people, because my ambition is no Filipino poor. I have a book here, No Filipino Poor. And it is doable because this is a rich country. And the Filipino people are sensitive, industrious, committed, and a very positive, sensitive human beings. You know, long after I'm gone, they will always remember, that's Imelda's love, you know. It's the good, true, and beautiful that she gave.